Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to start our bird tutorial. We're going to start with the simplest technique, and for that reason I have chosen a reference that has minimal background. So the first thing that you need to do is draw this bird. If you are really bad at drawing and you just want to trace it, that's fine. Print it out the same size that you want it to be in the painting, and then simply use tracing paper and transfer paper and trace your image onto your watercolor paper. And then once that's done, we can start painting the bird. I'm going to do everything just like I see it in the reference. So that means that I can use scraps of watercolor paper like this and carefully color match first before I put anything down. But let's just go ahead and put down this kind of light ombre, gray, and blue effect in the background here. So get a large flat brush, wet, and paint down some clean water in the background. This is called water masking. And in water masking, you regain some control over your figure by directing where the paint is going to want to go. It's watercolor paint, so it's going to want to go on the wet areas. So you can easily protect some spots and keep them from getting paint on them by simply not painting them with water. So I paint around my bird, I paint around the branch. Just have to be a little bit quick so that it doesn't start to dry. And then when you get out into the open, like over here, you can speed up your brush strokes and go faster. But then I'm just going to choose some blues and some grays, and I don't really care what. I just want it to look like some interesting different neutrals. So I have a sienna up to a blue. And then just start down here in this corner. I can add a little bit more purple and just let that mix on the page. Kind of keeping it similar to what I see happening in the reference, just because I know that I like that. And I want my colors to be nice and light. Don't worry too much about filling everything in, because it's actually really interesting in a watercolor to have some areas of broken texture where you have a dry brush technique and other places where you have more of a wet. Then up here we'll make it go a little bit cooler with some blue. Just get it down like this. Make sure you're getting all the way down to the branch. And then if you want, you can even give it a spray with a water bottle. That will loosen it up immediately and give it this cool dappled texture. I think I'm going to darken up this corner just a little bit more. I'll add some of the blue that's up here down in here. When you're painting watercolor, you need to be aware that it's going to dry quite a bit lighter than you put it down, especially if you have a really watery wash like this. So if you want there to be any kind of visible colors, especially in high contrast areas, you need to make sure that you put it down nice and heavy with quite a bit of color saturation. That looks better. See, I'm just dropping in the color by blotting it down with my brush. I put it down and then I just zoop, lift up my brush like that. No fussy brush strokes here, not in this stage. Just trying to make it interesting. So once you've sprayed it down and you like the basic look, put it away, let it dry completely, perfectly flat, and then we'll be ready to come back and add details to our bird. Okay, now our background is dry and it looks interesting, which is great. So now I'm going to do the background elements, which in this painting are very, very simple. It's just these little branches. So I'm just going to get a nice wet wash of some browns and then put in the straight lines of these soft branches. I'm not even really drawing these first. I'm just looking at the reference. Then I'm going to go back and lighten up some parts by just dabbing with a paper towel to break that up so it's not so solid. And then over here we have another. Okay, good. Let's drop in some browns. Let that mix on the page. And then add these little twigs while the color is still wet. And then before it has a chance to dry, you can also go back and soften the edge to make that a soft focus look. Do the same thing on these other branches, and I'm just really focusing on trying to make it interesting, not necessarily look exactly like what I see on the reference. It adds movement, it definitely adds more to the sense of being outdoors. Gives this a little bit more context. Then of course you have the foreground